Hi, all starts here. A very large lump of lime wood. I think I picked this one up about 5 years ago. I found a place that was selling it from timber from the local park. It's not that easy to find, so I'm very careful about how I use it and what I use it on. But the elephant needs a good piece of clean pine and a big piece, so I use this. I used to do it all by hand, doing the carving, but these days I mill out the blanks with a router because it's very difficult to get the right shape, and secondly it's very difficult to get a consistent shape each time you make one. So I make the blanks in 2 halves, which I then screw together with stainless steel bolts, 3mm bolts. Because it needs to come apart for A, for the internal mechanism, and B, in case anything jams up inside, because it has the balls going round it. Then there's a lot of sanding down to smooth the shape down, get the shape just right, and that's where we are now. Okay, I've sanded the elephant down now. Looking nice. What I've got to do now is cut behind the ears and cut his toes out. So what I'm going to do is just mark it with a pencil so I can see where I'm going. A lot of work gone into it already now, so I don't want to make a mess. Good. Simply a matter of carving that away now. I'll get my carving tools. Ever handy, Swiss made carving tools. The important thing though is to keep sharpening them, because if they get blunt they're really difficult to salvage. So this is a block with the different profiles on it, and this is some sort of abrasive stick. Right, let's hope that does the job. Try an easy bit first. It's this stage where I always manage to cut my fingers. It's time consuming, this filming, particularly when the battery runs out. The minute you get started. Try again. So I was saying, this is generally where I cut my fingers if I'm going to. Of course the blade's so sharp and it just jumps off and straight into your finger. Taking fairly delicate cuts, because what I don't want to do is take an end off the corner of the ear, for instance, otherwise difficult to retrieve the situation. I'm pretty much trying to carve across the end of the grain on these ears, because the grain's going this way. It's much more difficult than going along the grain. Get the right angle so we don't lift a chip off. It's a curved one. Just to take the spikes up. Started that one off. I'll get inside there with a piece of coarse sandpaper in a minute, just to keep that going. Let's do the second one. Concentrating here so that A, I don't ruin the elephant, and B, that I don't ruin my hands. Good. Hopefully a piece of coarse sandpaper will do it. They sell this for sandpaper in plaster. The granules are a long way apart, so it's quite good for this softish wood because it doesn't clog. At least it doesn't clog quite as easily. And it takes the wood off quite nicely. Ooh, nearly dropped the elephant. Don't have to break a leg off or something. A lot of work wasted if I did that. I need to keep it nice and clean because this won't be painted. So you can't just fill anything defects in, it's got to look right. I say it won't be painted, it'll be varnished. Several coats of lacquer. but no colour to cover anything over. Right, looking better. Still not quite happy with it there. This one's just got a slight bend on it. Slight curve. Could shave on that now. It's very time consuming, this carving this elephant out. And there's plenty can go wrong yet because I've still got to stick the trunk on. Not to mention do these. Right, trunk time. I've got another piece of lime wood. I've drawn the trunk on it, just drawn it by hand to try and get the right dimensions. What I'm going to do, if you watch my flapping goldfish video, it works on the same principle really. I'm going to cut the central line out first, and I'm going to do this with a scroll saw, fret saw, with a medium-sized blade. The blade needs to be about the same thickness as the cloth I'm going to use in the middle. So I'll do that, and then I'll get back to you. Okay, I've now cut this out with a number 9 blade on the scroll saw, fret saw. So that's the inner part of the trunk now. Let's just get that in the picture. So there's the inner part of the trunk. It's come out. Two things I need to do. First of all, we need to put a cord through it so that it bends. So I'm going to have to cut a groove all the way around there now. And then secondly, we need the cuts, which I'll do on the big bandsaw, quite wide gaps there. So first of all, I need to cut the groove in this. I'm using a V-shaped carving tool. Difficult as you're going across the grain. Let's go from the other side. Come right to the end. Good, there's the groove down the middle. Now I'm going to cut these lines. Got to be careful not to cut them so far that the pieces separate. And similarly here, going on the outside of the trunk, I'll cut the lines and then I'll be back. Monofilament fishing line. So first of all, I'm going to glue up this section here. Have to put enough glue on, but not too much glue on, because we don't want it bunging up either this slot or any of the lines there. So just dot of glue on each one. Smooth it out with the finger. It's important that the central bit glues. And the ruler here, just to get in there and make sure you're not bunged all up. Good, now I'm going to get the fishing line and pop that in that groove so that we can get it through. We can pull another piece through later. Now put the cloth on. To keep the cloth as straight as I can. Also keep it clean. Good, let's glue the other side now. So what I'll do now, I'll put the glue on the cloth itself, because it'll make it easier than putting it on the wood. Now this needs to go into there. And we have to make sure that all the lines are lined up, because it won't work if they're not. And I have to say, they're not at the moment. They are lined up, but I've got one missing, which is really annoying. Really annoying, because that means I've got to start again. It actually seemed to work quite well gluing this piece of cloth, so I'll try that again. Some glue on it. Good. Here we go again. Let's try holding this time. Push it on there. That's looking more promising. Okay, let's go and see how the trunks worked out. Right, here we are. As you can see, I have it in the two vices. I've got the vice there and then I've got a clamp there, so because it's such a strange shape, just to try and get as much foresight as I can. Okay, here it is. Not too optimistic about this one really, because one or two of the lines aren't opposite each other. I wonder if it's going to bend. We'll have a look and see. I usually have to make several of these before I get one that's successful. It's just so difficult with all the different cuts, and then it sort of does tend to bend a bit when you put it in the vise. It's one of the reasons every time I make an elephant I say, right, this is going to be the last one. But this one's off to the Pooseum in Tasmania, and who can refuse that, eh? So onward we go. Fortunately, I do have one also from a previous attempt, the last time I made an elephant, so we've got two attempts before we have to make yet another one. So I'm going to go now and cut it out on the scroll saw, and I'll cut along the blue line, so that should then see how much flexibility we've got in these. I'll do both. If you'd like to join me in the garage where I've got my scroll saw, no room for it in the actual workshop unfortunately. Let's go and do that. See what we've got. Right then. So this is the old one, and it's pretty stiff at the moment, but it's got potential. Let's put it like that. Just about big enough. So what I would have to do now is cut this one down like so to shape, and then start shaping it. A bit concerned whether we can find the hole in this one. There it is. Let's see. Let's have a look at the one that we just made yesterday though. This one hasn't turned out quite as well, unfortunately. What we've done, we've lost a segment, which doesn't help. That's not a complete disaster, although one or two of them are loose, but they can be glued back. In fact, it might help, because we can. What I can do is just sand that one down a bit so that we've got a bit more flexibility in there. Then can see if we can glue them back again. And that one needs to be glued back so. So it might be salvageable. I'll see what I can do with that one. I think I'll fiddle with that a bit off screen and see what I can make of it. I think out of the two we might get one half decent trunk. Okay, I'm making progress. Working quite nicely. So what I need to do now is stick it onto the elephant, but just on one side, because on this side I want it so it takes apart so that you can get at the internals. So just going to glue it on the one side. Put plenty of glue on. Plenty too much there, really. So, take a bit off. Wipe it on. Right, just for placement, I'll put the other side of the elephant on, and then see if we can get the elephant's trunk in position. Nice and square, get it. Right, leave that to dry for a couple of hours now, and then we'll finish the trunk off. What? So in the end I ditched this one. It's I managed to glue the pieces back on quite effectively, but it's just too big a gap there now. It just doesn't quite bend right, so there's another one bites the dust. So now where are we? So I've got the trunk glued on now, bending nicely. The other thing I've done is I've made the tail, so we got the front and the back sorted, more or less. Let's just show you. I just carved it out of a little piece of lime wood, just by hand, so it fits in there. And then this is the back of the elephant, so that one screws on like so. 3 bolts hold it in place. So now we've got a tail. The tail's just passive. So when a ball comes out of his backside there, the tail lifts. I'll put some bristles in there to make hairs. And the trunk looks nice now, nicely proportioned. I think it's going to, the whole thing's beginning to take shape now, looking good. Next stage is to do the internals, make the eyes. Particularly tricky bit, actually, surprisingly, is making the balls, because they all have to be exactly the same size and they all have to be spherical, otherwise the whole thing jams up. That's why it bolts together, of course. So yeah, it's looking very good. Went down the river this morning, very nice, shaping up to be a very nice day today. Automata making's sort of looking more and more like a winter sport for me these days now. It's so tempting to get outside when the weather's nice. Certainly get this elephant finished though in the next few weeks. But for now, thanks for watching. See you for the next instalment. Cheers.